Everyone, in this video I just want to explain what's going to cause the aggregate production function to shift. So if you think about what the thought experiment is, the aggregate production function shows the relationship between two things, the capital labor ratio on the horizontal axis and labor productivity on the vertical axis, assuming everything else is held constant. Okay? And so when we derived it, we actually traced out what the aggregate production function is going to look like as the capital labor ratio changes, assuming all that other stuff is held constant. And we had a production function that looks like this. It gets flatter and flatter and flatter as the capital labor ratio increases. And again, that's due to the principle of diminishing marginal returns. In this video, I just want to say what's going to happen to the production function if we keep the capital labor ratio constant and we assume one of those other things that we held constant before now changes. So for example, what if there's new technology, changes in human capital, changes in the organizational structure of the economy, so changes in government capital, social and cultural capital, changes in the environment such as the weather, things like that nature, the climate. Okay? So I think it's probably easiest to see this in terms of technology. So let's talk about the discovery of a new technology, and here comes the key phrase that makes workers more productive at every level of the capital labor ratio. So this might be something like the introduction of computers in the economy, or this could be something like the introduction of electricity into the economy back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. The key point is that now labor productivity is higher at every single level of the capital labor ratio. Okay? Now, to demonstrate what the effect is going to be, we're going to go ahead and just fix the capital labor ratio here at KL. So that gives me my point of reference, point A. Now think about the example I just described. A new technology makes workers more productive at every single level of the capital labor ratio. Well, here's my capital labor ratio. I know they've become more productive. I don't know by how much, so I will say their productivity increases to this. Call that point B. All right, point B is no longer on the initial production function. Therefore, there must be some new production function, call it production function 2, that looks like this. Okay? So the production function in this case has shifted up. Now, imagine there's yet another improvement of technology. What's going to happen to the production function? Well, it should shift up again. And notice how I'm drawing this shift. Oops, that might be a little bit higher than I need to make my point. So notice how I'm drawing my shift. And so I'm going to go ahead and shift the production function up again. That's production function 3. So every improvement in technology causes the aggregate production function to go ahead and shift up. Okay, now here's the key point. The principle of diminishing marginal returns is not going to apply to new technology. Okay, you think why the principle of diminishing marginal returns applied in that ditch digging example. You start adding more and more shovels, then eventually as you add more and more shovels, that extra shovel doesn't give you as much of output. Why? Because eventually you reach the point where that extra shovel is just lying there not doing anything, or you don't have enough workers to use the shovels efficiently is another way to think about it. Here, it's constantly improving in technology. Now, the law of diminishing marginal returns, or the principle of diminishing marginal returns, doesn't apply to new technology as far as we know, because there's no reason to think that the next technological breakthrough will add less to output than the previous one. As a result, when technology changes, if you want to think of it in terms of units, though it's kind of artificial, it increases by one unit, the production function shifts up from production function 1 to production function 2. And then when it increases by 1 unit again, it increases from production function 2 to production function 3. And the key point is the vertical shifts are just as much as the previous vertical shift. So the principle of diminishing marginal returns doesn't apply when you're talking about new technology. All right. Now, how would this story be a little bit different if you were talking about human capital? Well, that's left as an exercise for you guys to figure out. But here's the hint. Imagine what would happen to output as you add more and more college workers to an economy. Okay, so college-educated workers, so you improve the skill level of the labor force. All right, so the key question you're going to want to ask yourself is, will the principle of diminishing marginal returns apply in that case, or will the principle of diminishing marginal returns not apply? If the principle of diminishing marginal returns applies to human capital, then each one of these vertical shifts will get smaller and smaller and smaller as, you get more and more college-educated workers. On the other hand, if the principle of diminishing marginal returns doesn't apply, then as you add more and more college workers, the production function is going to shift up by a constant amount. So that I'll leave for you as an exercise to figure out.